Hello, I'm your friend Dylan, and I finally got the chance to be player one. Hi, welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games. I'm your friend Dylan, and before we get into the show today, I actually want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I've been thinking about the show structure and something that I would like to do to kind of promote further engagement with the show, maybe outside of just listening. I'm going to actually start posing discussion questions at the end of each episode, and I will also place them on the show notes. And basically the goal of that is to just kind of keep the conversation going. Podcasting can be a very one-sided affair where I'm here sharing thoughts and feelings about video game experiences. And I think it would be cool to pose discussion questions and maybe keep the conversation going beyond just the show here and kind of in between episodes where we can talk further about implications of what games have made us feel, or specific themes that are within the game. So I'll be posing those moving forward, both on the show notes and then at the end of the show, obviously, to just kind of conclude and wrap things up and maybe get us thinking about what we could talk about. So as always, I appreciate your engagement with the show at all. I love that this is useful to a variety of people, and it's cool to see that there is engagement. So I appreciate that you all let this be a choice in your podcast collection, or whatever it is you're engaging with. Happy that this could be one in your lives. And I think I'd like to connect with you further than just talking at you in your headphones or in your car, or whatever, however it is you engage with the show. So yeah, look forward to that. And I would love to keep a conversation going about games and the ones that we play, and maybe just some thoughts and feelings and anything really that has to do with that. So I'm thinking the kind of responses could either be in comments left on the Spotify episode, or you could reach out at Your Friend Who Likes Games on Instagram, or you can find me on Blue Sky, and through messaging, or maybe eventually we can create some sort of forum. I know Discord is a popular place to have those kinds of conversations. So if there's enough popularity in it, I'm going to get it started and see how, if there is participation. And obviously, if you like to just listen to the show as is and not participate in that is totally okay too. Just want to give the opportunity for listeners and people that engage with the show to kind of connect. And then, like I said, just kind of keep the conversation going beyond just episodes and listener, kind of having that indirect relationship. So yeah, that's the goal of that. And I'm going to give it a try and see, and maybe it can evolve into other things. And if you all have suggestions or places that you would like that to happen beyond Instagram or Spotify comments, open to Discord or maybe another place that conversations can happen. Always looking to kind of build the community here. As you know, if you have connected with this, I've said that, this is a place for not only me to be excited about games, but to connect with other friends that like games. And that's kind of my goal here, to build that community and stay connected through things that we enjoy. So yeah, let's look to do that. And thanks in advance for participation if you choose to do so. And if not, thank you just in general for tuning in and giving this show a listen. So there's that. We'll get to the discussion questions at the end of the show. But today I'm going to be talking about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It is a game that I played when it came out with my wife for a little bit, and then we put it down. And as I've said on the show before, games aren't necessarily her top priority when it comes to entertainment. So when we put it down, I kind of let it be to see if we would ever play again. And I didn't want to it's like when you start a show or something with your partner, you don't want to watch ahead or finish it. But then I think enough time had passed, and then with this kind of, I've been slowly anticipating and saving up for a Switch 2. So I am getting excited about Kirby again. Well, I'm kind of new to the franchise as well. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I think, is the only Kirby game I've played technically. But with Air Riders looking amazing, I was kind of excited to dip back in. So more on that in a little bit. But at the beginning of the show, I like to do the For Your Wishlist section. So this is a section of the show where I talk about game releases or game discovery or just kind of games to think about playing. And I got 3 for you today. One of them I actually discovered recently, and it looks pretty funny. It is a free game. It looks to be a short kind of narrative game that you could probably play in a sitting if I had to guess. And it is called DateBoy, a play on the word Game Boy. And here's the Steam description of that one. It says, secretly playing your generic 90s handheld video game console during a first date? Shame on you. And the art style is interesting. Seems to be this kind of new, I'm noticing like a new wave of like these kind of dramatically lit, like 3D rendered games, but like you're kind of at this like Italian, like generic local Italian place that has the red checkerboard table, and you're sitting and you're quite literally like playing a Game Boy as you're on a date. So you don't see the date. You're kind of like have your eyes down toward the Game Boy, and it looks like you're doing something like trying to multitask. You're doing like something, 2 things at the same time. So you're like answering questions and trying to like engage with the person that you're on a date with, and you are also like quite literally playing a Game Boy game that looks pretty simple to play. It looks like you just kind of move like up, down, left, and right, and you're kind of jumping as you move up. And check out the Steam either trailer and description, and you can see like what's really going on. But yeah, I thought like, 1, it's cool that it's free. 2, it seems like a short experience that's like totally worth playing and probably has like a lot of bigger things to talk about in regards to distraction and need to kind of be on a screen and play, especially like a first date. That's interesting too. So enough said there. Like I'm definitely interested in playing this one and giving it a go. It's not Steam Deck verified, but it is available on PC, and it looks like you have to do some clicking. I'm guessing you're maybe doing like point and click while also hitting like up, down, left, right. But that's a guess. I haven't touched it. I haven't played, but I just discovered DateBoy, and it looks funny. But also, again, probably has some bigger implications. Please forgive my voice today. It's gunky season, so I'm going to do my best here to make sure I drink some water and clear it all up. Thank you. But next is going to be For Your Wish List, Big Hops. A lot of hype on Instagram and social media with this one. It just released January 12th. It's got a lot of positive reviews, and I had seen the dev of this one for a bit, and it definitely falls in line with Lil Gator game. That's like the first game that comes to play, like it comes to mind. It looks to have like a pretty similar structure, at least art style wise, where a lot of space to move around and enjoy the movement that the game offers, and then like little animal creatures that you talk to that I'm sure give you quests and reasons to go different places. But yeah, it looks to be a 3D platformer that is really taking the idea of a frog and letting him run around on 2 feet, jump, flip, dive, and then you have like your tongue that becomes like a grappling hook, essentially, that can be used in a variety of ways. And it looks like this game has a ton of like speed and movement, where it allows you not only that, but like the space to do so. another game I played in the fall last year, I did an episode on called Tall Trails, also kind of comes to mind, where the kind of freedom of movement happens, where you have like a lot of space to play the game. And it looks to have that similar like climbing mechanic that Tall Trails and Little Gator Game has, where you grab on and then you have your little like circle meter of a lily pad that wants you to it allows you to hold on for a certain amount of time before you would slip off and fall. So yeah, looks really good. Excited to find some space to really dive into Big Hops, and I know a lot of people are playing it currently, so a lot of positive things to say about it. And yeah, it looks good. So check out. There's a ton of if you check out Luckshot Games on Instagram, and actually, hang on, I'm gonna get the follow. There we go. If you want to follow like the game designer for Big Hops on Instagram, he goes by Chris Wade. So that's Chris, ChrisWade.frog. And he'd been posting a lot of updates about the game, and now that it has launched kind of there and reached the finish line, I'm sure they got a ton of work to do. But yeah, if you're curious, that's the follow on Instagram at least. And yeah, this one looks worthy. Not only that, but I noticed on Steam too, if you haven't played these other games, but there's like it's called the Animal Adventures bundle, and there is Big Hops is in it, the game that just came out. A Short Hike is in it. Little Kitty Big City is in it, and Little Gator Game, which all seem to kind of have very similar intent and influence. I can speak for two of those games, Little Gator Game and A Short Hike. A Short Hike is one of my all-time favorites. Little Gator Game is very close to that. Very good. Little Kitty Big City looks awesome. I just don't know how I feel about cat games. I haven't really played one. And sorry if you're a cat person. I'm not anti-cat. I just don't know about being a cat as a main character. That's my own personal bias. And Big Hops, of course, just came out. But that bundle is $45 for 4 games. And if you haven't played them and you're looking to kind of save or like really want to eat this up, I think that's a good approach for you. All right. So Big Hops is a new 3D platformer, which you get to run around as a frog and use your tongue as a grappling hook, among other things. And lastly, a game I heard about from Wavelengths, aka Into the Aether. Really Wavelengths in his like best 50 games of 2025 was A Dream About Parking Lots. And I'm going to read the Steam description for this one here too. Look for your car in a series of mazes and parking lots while you talk to your therapist about feeling lost. An interactive story about trying to make sense out of the unreal, based on real dreams. So yeah, it looks like this person like started documenting like kind of in a surrealistic way. I know a lot of surrealist artists used to do this, where they would wake up and document their dreams that they were having. And this sounds really cool. It sounds like a small game, story rich, the tags on Steam say experimental, philosophical, atmospheric. And yeah, it has like where the conversation and the dialogue is you talking to your therapist in game. But the dream is kind of happening around you, and this kind of atmospheric parking lot where you're looking for your car and again, feeling lost, like you're quite literally feeling lost, but then you kind of get to just like slow down and take it all in. And it looks that, dreamlike things start happening, like things start floating. And I'm sure there's, maybe some interpretive explanation for all of that. But he said it was great, and I trust their opinion on games. And even though this one has just positive reviews, but there's only 31 user reviews, so it's not like incredibly popular. But it did come out last year in March, so maybe underrated one that people should give more of a chance, I would say. I look to do so hopefully soon. And that's A Dream About Parking Lots. Sounds interesting. So again, for your wish list today are DateBoy, which is a free game to play, Big Hops, which is the new kind of exciting indie that is in touch with like a short hike and a little gator game, and then A Dream About Parking Lots. Looks to be more of a thinker and a feeler for sure. We'll take a quick break, and then when I come back, we are going to talk about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. See you soon. All right, we are back and here to talk about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So like I mentioned before, this was a game that came out and my wife and I picked it up and played it on Switch. We played about 25% of it. And like I've said, she's not like one that has games as like a top priority. So it's like something that we kind of pecked at, shared, and enjoyed for a little bit. But then eventually we're like, okay. And then it just faded off. And I hadn't thought about it for a while. And with the kind of anticipation of Switch 2, and Kirby Air Riders is a game that's definitely on my radar and something I would like to play. I started thinking and I was like, oh, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Like I have kind of always thought about revisiting that game. And then I think until this year, I had this fear of like not playing the new most exciting game. And I've kind of breaking away from that and just playing games that I'm interested in and I want to play. And I'm really happy that I revisited this one. And you know, caveat with that is that when my wife and I played, I was the second player Waddle Dee, and there's the kind of like intro hint that I gave you that I finally get to be the player one, and do all the fun stuff that Kirby gets to do. So if you haven't heard of this game, which I'd be surprised, but you know, some of you may not have, you get to be Kirby that sucks up a variety of large things, and they get to become the thing that they are. So anything from a vending machine to a semi-truck to a car to a roller coaster. So it has these very cinematic and pointed events that happen in these levels that you get to embody all of those things by, you know, sucking them up and becoming like it and stretching your body around it. But not only that, like there are these copy abilities where there are enemies that, you know, are a part of the levels that have certain attacks. And then when you suck them up and you become them, you get their attack. So various people or enemies that use a sword or a freeze mechanic or a fire mechanic or bombs that they throw at you. So you have all these copy abilities that you can obtain, and then through unlocking certain currency in the game, you can upgrade them, in which they will do different things. And it's a whole lot of fun, but I think the biggest thing with this game was the atmosphere and the kind of camera cinematic approach to it, which I'd like to get into detail here. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I would say like the start of it, like point of arrival, and you know, if you've played the demo, you get to do that one first, and it's a lot of the trailers around this game are in this setting, and it's like a Japanese urban environment that is abandoned and has a ton of overgrowth, and I love that aesthetic. I love the kind of like dystopian or like just post-apocalyptic kind of look to it, and they made it cute here, and there's still like abandonment to it, which is so interesting to me. Like each of the level designs seem to still have that sort of like pain or that like post-human nature to them, but like it's Kirby, so it's like cute and approachable, and that juxtaposition is actually really nice. To see like how clever they can use like what we know to be our land, you know, the Forgotten Land, as like a relic of the past. There's like a mall level that I'm thinking of that I'll kind of get into the specifics later. There's like old metro stations. There's like an old like London-like area. There's, you know, like I said, this Japanese side. It's very cool to see like like a human land and context without humans, but instead just like cute Kirby characters and enemies that you take out. Yeah, it's a fairly like simple and achievable game, which like felt really good. I had been kind of craving that, something easy, and I like that Nintendo games kind of do both things. Like they have where it is like simple and achievable, but like if you want to be a sicko about it and like get into it, and especially with this Kirby game, you can collect a lot of things and you can really like dive into that, or you could be very specific with how you use your power-ups and weapons, and copy abilities, but like you don't need to. It's like not necessarily necessary to complete the game, which I think is good game design, and it widens the audience for sure. It still looks good on Switch 1. I noted that there were a couple frame breaks like later in the game, unfortunately, but it not anything that like really disrupted my experience or made me feel worse about playing it. I think I got used to a couple of them. I heard that it looks amazing on Switch 2. I know that there is a DLC for it, and you know, the kind of like remaster of it, I'm sure, is like stunning in regards to like color and movement. So, you know, maybe something I at least play the DLC on Switch 2, I think would be cool. But on a 4K TV, it still looked really good for the most part. You know, if I'm being critical, it had like one boss fight at the end had when you were attacking and it was doing its like cinematic bite at you, like frame rate definitely dropped, and performance dropped. And then I noticed too, and if you've played it, you know, not to soil an experience, but it was kind of interesting to me that like if characters were like out of attackable range and moving in this game, I noticed them to be a lot more like paper framey, you know, or like stop motion framey is what I think I'm trying to say. And I was like, huh. And then they would like come into the sort of like playable area where you could attack them, and then things smoothed out. So I think that's just what it had to be in order to run on the system. And, you know, I think it runs completely fine. I don't want to be snobby about frame rate here, but yeah, I felt early that the controls were weird to get used to. It's very like Super Nintendo jump. I think the side button is jump, and then like the bottom button ends up being like the action. But I got used to it. Like I think when playing other games that are platformers, you might feel a little weird with that because you're so used to that bottom button being the jump. But, you know, if you can, you know, stick to, like I did the Kirby game for the week, I was able to, you know, just get used to it. But yeah, I'm thankful that this is a game that rewards you for like being patient and looking around. And that's something that is like an early incentive when I'm definitely going to talk about like the camera angle. But like if you are patient and kind of like look around all of the spaces that it provides for you, and the camera is like a fixed camera, like you don't get to move the camera in this game. You find like little collectibles. They have those like plastic, almost like toy machine plastic, like with the little figurines inside. You collect those throughout the game, by kind of exploring the extra areas. And then you also, as a currency too, like you look to save all of the Waddle Dees that the evil powers that be are taking away. So you have to find them in the level and almost solve like an environmental puzzle sometimes, like, but you have to be kind of clever with your eye in finding like a way to blast open the door or see what's just beyond that plant, or maybe there is a way to like go underneath there. And they're very good about giving you clues. They kind of point right to them, and a lot of them are pretty obvious, but not all of them. I am not one that needed to perfect and find all of the Waddle Dees. My wife was like that though, which was pretty cool when we played. I think that may have been why we only got to 25%. We were consistently retrying levels to try to perfect them, which was cool. It's a different way of play and a different approach. But yeah, so let's talk about the camera angle, or the camera as like what I think to be probably my favorite character in this game. I like that the camera was very intentional, and like camera angles and the way that they presented the game made it like an event all the time. Like I loved the beginning of levels had a very like low panned camera that looked upward toward whatever you were facing and made that world very kind of intimidating to a small Kirby on the ground. Kind of put you in the perspective of Kirby. But you know, sometimes it would zoom out or zoom way above to get a very specific shot. And I just love how intentional it was. One that's coming to mind is like there is a big like ladder that led down this like hollowed cylinder that you had to go down. And then you like there's moments in this game where you find this little like twinkle star, and if you walk over it, coins appear. So I did that, and all the coins like ended up cascading down this ladder, and then as you like walk toward the ladder, the camera zoomed out more just to give that sense of like dropping down more weight. Like it really felt like you were kind of dipping into the depth of it. Or I'm thinking like you kind of before the last boss fight, it almost felt very like Metal Gear Solid-y, where you're kind of zoomed out and have Kirby small on these stairs that lead up to like the top of a skyscraper, but the camera is like backed away on purpose so that you feel kind of small. Yeah, really, really cool instances of camera use, and especially during, so not only like during those like transition periods, but during the like events that happen where you become, you know, a car, or you become the rocket, or not the rocket ship, well, it's a rocket ship, but the roller coaster. Like camera on that is really important too. So for the roller coaster example, I like that it like is right behind it so that you feel like you're riding the ride. And those, again, it's all like super intentional. Or there's like a, like almost like a hang glider kind of, you actually suck up like an awning, or like not an awning, an arch, and a metal arch, and then you just become this like wing basically. And then like a jet plane, you are like kind of like a Ace Combat kind of feel. You're like right behind it, and then you get to fly like dipping up and down, trying to get through all of these rings, and you know, swat at anything that might get in the way. But like that becomes, through the intention of the camera and the gameplay mechanic mixed in, like those all become like really unique and special moments in the game that become just a bit more exciting than the kind of moment by moment platforming that is in the game. They're just like set pieces that like really set the game apart and make it feel unique as a Kirby game. And I'm kind of assuming here that this one takes a different approach based on probably what I've heard from it in the past, and how like this one feels a bit more different of a game. You know, I haven't played Kirby 64. I haven't played like any other like 3D platforming Kirby game, if there is one. But it seems unique in that way, at least. In addition to like the main, like, you know, levels and beats of the game, there is the kind of challenges that are like little side missions that kind of send you to this like almost like simulated world that has like very condensed, like under 3-minute challenges where you're trying to get your best time, and the challenges kind of come up with like ways to use the copy abilities in a clever way. One of my favorites was like you're kind of bowling for switches. Like you have like the bomb mechanic or the bomb copy ability where you are letting bombs kind of roll down a hill in an attempt to like hit switches. And then when you hit all of the switches, then the platforming changes and you get to move on. And you're trying to do so in like a quick, timely fashion to get the best time. I wasn't really like a time record hunter in this. I was just hoping for success with them. But they're clever. They're like, it almost like those are moments of the game that almost educate you in ways that can help you see the game in a different way, to be able to, maybe try, it like guides you to try that copy ability in a way that you may not have thought of. And then you can then be a little more confident with it when you are in the main levels, and maybe feel a little cooler using it. I think the music of this game too should not go unnoticed. I love the really like delightful score that is fun to listen to, and throughout it's throughout all of it. So the same kind of tone and tune and melody will play, but like the style of it changes per open area that you have, like our overworld, I should say. So each overworld kind of has its own theme. You start with that like Forgotten Land, urban Japanese cityscape area, which is a great place to start, like I said before, with a ton of overgrowth. You end up going to like a tropical land. I really, really liked the snow land too, like the wintry. It was like almost like a wintry London feel. That's the one that featured like the metro level, which I thought was super clever. And fun to like move around like crates and trains off the tracks and like jump on them and jump around them, but they're all like frozen. You have the escalator, this big giant escalator to go down to start. Like again, like that, those cinematics really help and make it very engaging. But there are a couple that I like wasn't too fond of, like desert doesn't seem to be my jam. Like desert feels very like middle game to me. I'm thinking of like Super Mario Brothers Wii. I remember getting to a part where it was the desert and then the difficulty ramped up, and I just kind of like that aesthetic I'm not crazy about. But I did like a particular level in the desert one that was like a mall level. And what it did was like and I'm really curious of like the choice here is it had where you as Kirby would like navigate the mall, and there were the areas of the mall that like people would see and like go shopping, and then there were areas of the mall that were like behind the scenes, like workrooms and stock rooms. And I just felt like that was such a specific choice. But now that I'm thinking of it, like it helps that sort of like abandonment feel where, malls are such a thing that were like presented to people in such a like curated experience. Like you walk in and you see all these like big, exciting signs and lights and clothes on display and like buy. And then like to have it be stripped away, overgrown, broken, signs falling, and then the kind of like metal grate, like when the shops are closed, like all of those are down. And then to like have the sort of freedom then to see behind the scenes too is definitely saying something. It's like, and for someone that I was kind of a mall rat when I was a teenager, I worked at like PacSun, Hot Topic, and Journeys, and to see behind the scenes and to see like how not exciting it was, or to just be like, yeah, that like Volcom shirt that I really wanted, there's like 40 of them in this box and who cares? Like it takes away that like specialness. And I think that's kind of what this game is saying sometimes, is like, here's this human land where the things that we find so important or so essential in our lives, when we are not there, and then those objects and items don't have a use, what does that look like then? And then it's just kind of Kirby romping around on top of things that are now rendered useless because they lack the human engagement with them. It makes this like foreign place to Kirby and all of the enemies, but like a cool conversation to have with you, the player, who is a human that does use a car and these places and all of these things. And yeah, that I think is like the most interesting thing to think about when it comes to this game, is that sort of like, what are they saying when they are designing these levels and these places that we engage in that lack any sort of like human presence. So I want to talk about too, like I haven't mentioned yet, that there's boss fights in this game, and they're probably like one of my favorite things to watch and one of my least favorite things to play, and that might be like my personal bias, and I'm going to get into that with discussion questions later. But yeah, I like the way they looked, and I like how like the scale of them were really cool, where these bosses are like way bigger than you, and you got to find a way to get out of the way as Kirby, who doesn't have a sort of dodge roll attack like you would find in a Souls-like, but you have your little attack that like pecks away at them, but then like the bosses attack, and then they drop these stars that you can suck up and shoot back at them that seem to do more damage. So the hard part for me was like you had to drop your ability, pick up a star in time, and then shoot it at an enemy. And maybe I was doing that wrong. Maybe there was another way to do that, but that's, at least it seemed like the only option. And boss fights are like not always my thing. Like I like them cinematically, but the kind of premise of like, here's this sequence and you're not going to memorize it completely the first time. You're going to get hurt, you're going to fail, and you're going to have to try again. Can be triumphant when you finally get there, and then like afterwards the way you think of it is like, yeah, that was really cool, but the during for me, it can be kind of grueling, and I'm like, ugh. And I know this is a Kirby game, but I to just preface all of this, like I am not a Souls-like person. I am not a like balance and melee combat guy that much. I am a bullet heaven fella that likes power. And to feel vulnerable like that is kind of hard. And it's just not something that's in my video game DNA, and that's something I've said before for sure. So again, boss fights, they're in here and they're cool. And but you definitely feel kind of weak. I remember them being like particularly easy though with 2 players. Like you could get that Waddle Dee and just like smash, and it's easy, I think, because like the boss is pretty programmed to focus on Kirby, if I remember correctly. So you could just as a secondary character like destroy. But I took this one on solo, and especially at the end, the last level is like a 3 boss level that you're kind of that you have to navigate and try to stay healthy through. And the last one especially was like particularly challenging, more so than I think for like the early stages of this game that I think could be appropriate for like early child gamers. The end would take some help, and but maybe I'm wrong. Like I could be like worse at video games than I was when I was a kid. And I'm sure there are plenty of 7-year-olds out there that have figured it out, but the end boss fight was like way more epic and exciting than I expected it to be. And it's such a like, I don't want to say left turn, it fits, but it's just like the level of like cinematic excitement and like the gameplay just ramps up for this one. The attacks that they do become very different. It seems like it assumes like a lot about like dodging and getting out of the way and controlling this Kirby character. They do allow you to choose any of your copy abilities. They have them all available on the stairwell up to the boss. But man, like it was hard for me. Like it took, I think, like 3 or 4 times to get through, which, those of you that like boss fights and are gamers that can handle the difficulty and would like bash your head against a hard, like an actually hard boss fight, are probably like, yeah, okay, whatever. But like for me, it was challenging, and I'm more of liking the automaticness of some stuff. But it's an interesting conversation, and I felt like the boss fights were way different mechanically than the rest of the game, where you kind of instead are in like an arena and trying to dodge attacks and land attacks and kind of peck away at the bosses. Not all of them were great, great or exciting for me, but most of them were pretty cool. And like I said, the last one was just so good, so good. Obviously, won't spoil what happens or so on, but if you've played it, if you haven't, definitely get there. One additional thought I would like to add to the kind of camera as the main character is, being that it's such a set camera, I think the game does a really good job of guiding you. Like, you're never unsure of where to go, and I really, really appreciate that in a game. It's very fluid in the intent of like, it'll either guide you with coins or it'll guide you with enemies, or like the camera will point exactly where you need to be looking. And I think that's obviously smart design and very comforting to a player that can just approach it, and it's the communication in that way is very clear. And another thing I haven't really mentioned about the game that's cool and offers a lot of engagement, I think, especially for younger players. So I've heard other folks, Griffin McElroy and the Besties said that his son like really enjoys this part of the game, where it is the kind of Waddle Dee town that starts at nothing, and then you slowly, as you are rescuing all of the Waddle Dees from your gameplay, you are rebuilding the town. So you have like Kirby's house eventually, and then you get like this fun little fast food restaurant. You have another thing that has like a mini game that you can play. There is stuff where you can purchase like one level upgrade to take with you, or you increase your speed, or you increase your health. There's like a Coliseum that gets unlocked that you can do like other boss fights, and you just like slowly unlock a bunch of these things, and it's cool to have. It's not something I participated a lot in, but it's a nice like visual indicator of your progress. I did like the fishing. I'll say that there's like you get this little pond behind Kirby's house where you can fish, and it's simple mechanics. I'm noting this because like I didn't notice it right away, but like I have a hard time with like the X, Y, A, B on a Switch controller and figuring out or like remembering where they are. But when you play the fish mechanic, there is a diamond that kind of shows up around Kirby, and that like the buttons that show up that you're supposed to hit, they'll show up in the place that they are. So like visually you understand like where those buttons are, and you have to hit them in sequence and quickly to obtain different size fish, and it gets more and more challenging. But yeah, Kirby sits on a little fishing chair and grabs a fishing hat and their rod, and it's small and simple, but that's what a lot of that stuff in the Waddle Dee town is just kind of like an exhale from like the combat and extra stuff, and it's just like cute collectibles. I mentioned those like plastic what are those, like the plastic collectibles. You continue to unlock like machines where you can get different ones of those. I like in Kirby's house, there's a book that you can read, quote unquote, and it's quite literally like an advertisement for other Kirby games. It just like shows you what games there are, and they have like what platform they're on and what the like description of each game is, which got me thinking about like other Kirby games and games that I haven't played and maybe could catch up on if they're available. But yeah, so like Waddle Dee Town is a cool like hub to kind of just like be Kirby in and like play in and not have to like fight things, which is cute and fun and relaxing, of course. Thinking of the various copy abilities, there's a lot of them. I think one of my favorites, if I were to pick a few, or some of my favorites were the Ranger. I like that the Ranger basically made the game into a shooter, or a third-person shooter. Like you could just like point in a direction and shoot things, and that was nice. I liked it during various boss fights when you can keep your distance and then just kind of shoot. And I also like the kind of volcano or fire one. I only upgraded it once, and you get this like kind of blobby fire lava shot that doesn't go very far. It's kind of more of like a near melee distance. But what I liked about it is you got two things. So one, you can almost like inflict burn on a bigger enemy. That helped. And for me, it was my choice for the last 3 boss fights because of that. Like you could kind of stack up burn and it would continue to hurt the boss, kind of peck away at them. And then you also get like a jumping dodge. So if you jump and hit the attack button, you do this like fiery inferno dodge. So I kind of dubbed that my like dodge roll for these boss fights, and I thought that was helpful. But yeah, those are cool. Like there's the bomb one. If you upgrade it, you can like put 2 bombs next to each other, and they almost create this like chain reaction that happened. But the wind one was probably my least favorite. You kind of get this wind tornado where you hit the button a couple times, and if it gets like out of control the more the tornado goes, which makes sense. But when you're trying to platform, not so great falling off. But and then the last one, like I just thought looked cool, like the giant sword upgrade. Like you start, it's almost feels like Link like or Zelda like, where you have your little sword and your little hat, and you can go around and just kind of whap things, and with a pretty common melee. But you upgrade that one, and man, like it becomes this like Final Fantasy VII sword where you got it like on your back, and it's like a big swinging sword. Felt very like Final Fantasy Elden Ring-esque. I thought it was more cool looking than it was like for me to use. I didn't end up using it a whole lot, but yeah, those are like the simple copy abilities other than those like big events where you're walking around as a vending machine. Different, but fun. I mean, that's more of your like game by or like play by play, as obviously. I think my last note and thought too, that throughout the game and kind of reaching its conclusion, it's cool that, especially with like the kind of big boy boss fights at the end, a little like creepier, a little more intimidating than some of the kind of early cute stuff. It's clear that like these Kirby games seem to be made by like, I keep using like big boy, like just kind of like made by people that have made mature games, or at least are influenced by them. And then like those components come into play to where like, especially I guess I'm speaking for Kirby and the Forgotten Land here, that like this game in particular is not like just a baby game. Like it has like a lot of reference to, other 3D games, and not like direct reference, but like influence from, and it just felt cool that it seemed like developers of those games are making this Kirby game, or they want to incorporate that sort of like feel, so that the adults playing it like are connected to that too, while it has like I said earlier, kind of a wide span of audience, right? Like it's kind of like Nintendo likes to do, made for everyone. Like, it's engaging enough for an adult if they make it to the end. It's simple enough for a kid to enjoy like the first few levels and play around in Waddle Dee Town, like not assuming that a kid wants or needs to get to the end of the game. It is cool that like it's all there for a variety of people. And obviously the 2-player point is family friendly in that way, which again is a very Nintendo thing. But yeah, glad I revisited it, and glad I, got to that point where I was like, wait, there's more. Like I had been satisfied with the 25%, being like, this is a cool game. Like, it was really fun to share with my wife, but it was nice to play as Kirby and really see what the game is about. And yeah, an awesome 3D platformer, and more. So cheers to that. When I come back, I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to talk about other stuff, and this is the point of the podcast now where I will not only talk about other stuff, I will pose and conclude with discussion questions to continue the conversation outside of the show. So cheers to that, and thank you. I'll see you in a couple seconds. All right, to the other stuff section of the show and discussion questions for the future. With this show, I simultaneously thought about and paired it with this game, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and remembered that it had been coming out, and then discovered that on Crunchyroll the anime was out, and that anime is Touring After the Apocalypse. And I think the kind of overgrowth of the first area of Kirby and the Forgotten Land definitely made me think about this show, and was just curious just to kind of check in, and Googled it and was like, is this a thing? And it is out. And I haven't watched I've watched the first episode. So here, just kind of announcing some excitement about it, but it's really cool. It's subbed right now. It's not dubbed if you're a person that prefers dubbed. But it is a subbed anime, and it is about two gals that are are touring, just as it says, touring after the apocalypse. And they have this 1990s Yamaha dirt bike that they're riding around. One of them is revealed to be a cyborg, which is stated in the description, but you're like, what? And then you find out, you kind of see how. And then in the first episode, you're kind of, it's beautiful, and I love the premise, and that's just kind of where it starts, where you have again, the overgrowth, the abandoned, and they're just kind of joyfully going places and taking pictures and looking for food. But then you would anticipate, it starts to unpack why there was an apocalypse, or some things that are left over imply the kind of danger of, or why there was even an apocalypse. So yeah, I'm excited to really dig into that one. And I felt pretty appropriate to go along with Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So that's Touring After the Apocalypse. It is on Crunchyroll. And I've only gotten started, so not a whole lot to say about it other than it's working. It's totally my aesthetic. I love the kind of abandoned world, post-apocalyptic. It oddly brings me comfort. I think as a fairly introverted person, I think it's nice to have that calm, or that feel of the world is yours, and now I get to walk around it. Not only that, but I just think the overgrowth of the kind of nature taking over what we have taken over as a society, with concrete and machines. I just think it's cool that these kinds of things exist. All right, so let's get to the discussion questions. So I'm going to leave these here and, prompt your participation if you would like to. Again, these questions you can answer in any way you would like. You can answer on the Spotify episode with the comments section there. You could reach out to me on Instagram. You can send me a message at Your Friend Who Likes Games. or like I said, if you all have suggestions on forums, that would be cool. We can get that started too. But yeah, so here we go. The first one, I posted about this recently, and I'm curious if you hear it here too. Like, what other Kirby games have you played? I am very new to the franchise, and if you have played them, like, let me know what recommendations you have. I was not a 3DS person. I was not a Game Boy Advance person. But I am a Switch 1 person and soon to be a Switch 2 person. So like I'm curious of other ones that you all have enjoyed and which ones I should really be focusing on, because there's a lot of them. So, not going to play them all, but curious. What are your feelings on boss fights? That's my other question here. I have mentioned earlier in the show, like, I don't love them. They're difficult and tough, the kind of repetition of sequence. But like, I'm curious if like you all could help me see something that I'm not quite like appreciating, when it comes to boss fights. I definitely can appreciate the like set piece that a boss fight can have. I'm thinking of Black Myth Wukong, like that. I tried playing that game and I really appreciated like the visuals and like what you were almost got distracted by it, like the gameplay part of it is hard. I like watching them, but that kind of memorization can be tricky. But like I said, the triumph feels good. So curious of what your feelings on boss fights are. And my last question is, like, if you've played this game, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, like, what other things to you come to mind? I referenced Touring After the Apocalypse, obviously, with the kind of like abandoned and overgrowthness of it. And especially with the last boss fight, I really saw, like, I felt not a reference, but like it felt like Metal Gear Solid 2. Like, it had this like rooftop battle feel to it, where I remember like becoming Raiden and I think fighting Big Boss in like a very similar setting. That's where my brain goes. But like, curious if you all like connected it to other things and other references. I think that's probably one of my biggest questions here. So I will put those questions in the show notes as well. Feel free to respond and participate, or feel free not to. If you want to just listen to the show, I'm cool with that too, and very thankful. So with that, like I've said, you can find me on Instagram at Your Friend Who Likes Games. You can find me on Blue Sky, and you can comment and talk to me here on Spotify. But cheers and thank you, and I hope you all have a good one. We'll see you all next time. Bye.